Hello, my name is Delana, and the title of my action research project is Authentic Learning in a Foreign Language Classroom. There are many languages spoken worldwide, and language is the avenue by which people can communicate their thoughts, feelings, and desires. It's not uncommon in a foreign language classroom to see teachers teaching vocabulary and then grammar in an isolated fashion. Should those who embark upon teaching a language present these topics, vocabulary and grammar, in an isolated fashion, or is it more effective to teach those components in an authentic way using materials within context? The problem that I have seen is that with teaching vocabulary and grammar in context, not in context, in an isolated fashion, is that the students fail to see the usefulness of the language and the benefits of it outside of the classroom. The purpose of this study, because language is meant to be communicated, this study sought to determine effective strategies to increase fluency and the usefulness of the language outside of the classroom. The significance of this study is that foreign language tend to teach using the same methods by which they were taught. It's easy to fall into a routine due to outside factors, and just that it's easier to just teach vocabulary one week and then grammar the next week. The results of this study will demonstrate to other foreign language teachers, particularly those who teach Spanish, the benefits of incorporating authentic learning materials and strategies into the curriculum. The review of literature. So there is a lot that I found on this topic as far as authenticity. It's not uncommon to walk into any secondary classroom and to see desks in rows and students just listening and passively absorbing what the teacher has to present. Usually it's lecture style. The teacher is the focus and lecture is the primary purpose of instruction. However, research shows that lecture promotes surface learning, which details rote memorization and regurgitation of information. For this reason, students do perform well on tests, but they don't really retain the information that they're learning. Neither do they develop a deep understanding of the content. Active learning looks like students working in small groups on different tasks and at the same time. Research suggests that providing authentic tasks is an effective way of teaching and learning. So, authentic teaching and learning, authentic activities, here's some characteristics of them. They have real world relevance, they're ill defined, which means they require students to define the task that they need to complete. Authentic activities comprise complex tasks to be sustained over a period of time. They provide the opportunity for students to examine the task from different perspectives using a variety of resources. Authentic activities provide the opportunity to collaborate. They provide the opportunity to reflect. They can be integrated and applied across different subject areas and lead beyond domain specific outcomes. They are seamlessly integrated with assessment. They create polished products and they allow competing solutions and a diversity of outcomes. So then with authentic learning, there is not one right way necessarily to arrive at an answer. So then authentic learning in a foreign language classroom looks like the target language being used in order to get the outcomes that one is looking for. The ultimate goal, as Lombardi states in 2007, should be to take what's learned inside the classroom and be able to use it outside of the classroom setting. Teaching vocabulary and grammar in an isolated manner is not representative of authentic learning. So then I looked at ways of teaching vocabulary and grammar authentically. For vocabulary, there were a variety of ideas given. There are, you can sing songs, there are multimodal strategies, storybook reading works, just interactive storybook reading where the students have a chance to touch and see and feel the vocabulary words, to interact with each word multiple times. Studies show that that's effective, that students need to hear vocabulary words repeated several times in order to retain the word. using top-down and bottom-up approaches. A bottom-up approach introduces vocabulary in isolation, while a top-down approach presents the material in context. Another method for teaching vocabulary is video resources. Students can hear native speakers and imitate the correct pronunciation and intonation that they hear. It also helps develop students' communicative competence. I may have mentioned before that singing is also an effective way to learn vocabulary. Students love being able to hear beats and those sorts of things help students retain what they've learned. So for grammar, ways to teach grammar that are authentic are tape recorders, using slides, postcards, photos, magazines, blogs, newspapers, advertisements, role-playing, subway tickets. Any of these things that you would find in the real world are effective, authentic ways to teach. Comic strips have also been shown to be beneficial. You can do a variety of things with comic strips. You can take out some of the bubbles and have students in the target language fill in what would come next. You can add different characters and have students create what would come from there. Spontaneous conversations lead to authenticity, of course, with the teacher gently prodding the students to be able to answer. Video clips. Video clips are awesome because students can hear or witness a real world conversation and be able to pick up what was used in the conversation, be vocabulary, a verb you're learning in the present tense, or verbs you're learning in the past tense. So then assessing authentically. Some categories for that are the context of the assessment. So an assessment should have a realistic activity or context. The assessment should be task and performance based. It should be cognitively complex. So the student should be able to defend the answer or the product. The student should be able to see that the assessment is formative. The student should be able to collaborate with each other. In the scoring, the performance expectation is mastery. Again, if the students are experiencing authentic tasks, if they're completing authentic tasks, if they're experiencing authentic learning, then the assessment should also reflect that. It would not be authentic to have the students speaking in conversations for authentic learning and then they're given a multiple choice test. Research shows that the benefits of authentic learning leads to motivated students because they're invested in the real life scenarios with which they are presented. As the task unfolds, engaged students build on the skills they have learned. They take advantage of the opportunities to actively think about and apply new and important ideas. This increases engagement, motivation, and students also find enjoyment, humor, and satisfaction in completing these types of activities. Also, Chan in 2014 noted that active learning leads to student completion of work, student ownership in their work, self-determination, and goal setting. Again, these tasks provide opportunities to relate to real-world situations. They make connections to the students' own interests, and students are able to deeply engage in the content. One of the key benefits of authentic tasks is that they introduce students to ways of reasoning and problem solving that represent what they would experience in the real world. We're wanting to teach students how to use their brains and how to problem solve. So the participants in this study, I teach in an urban high school setting where there are about 1,800 students. The demographics are about 30-30-30, with 30% being black, 30% being white, 30% being Hispanic, and then 10% that fall into that other category. It was a non-random convenient sample. The students range from grades, they range from 9th grade to 11th grade. There are 6 periods a day taught, both by myself and by another foreign language teacher. There were a total of 291 students who were involved in this project. Only 37 of those students brought back signed consent forms. So then those 37% were allowed to take part in the Likert survey and the questionnaires, but the other 291 students were observed. So the design and procedures, it was a mixed methods. So we used observation. The students, like I said, again, participated in questionnaires, the Likert surveys. What we did during the 2-week period was we took a week to present vocabulary, with singing songs. The students use, also for grammar, the students use conversation cards. We looked through newspapers to find the content we were teaching. The students were able to interact with each other and work on skits and perform them. We played charades. So it was a lot of, getting up out of your seat, interacting with each other. The data analysis, we observed and analyzed classwork completion. We analyzed test scores, both before authentic learning and after, for both vocabulary and grammar, and the results of that. Okay. So, hope you can see this here. So the results of our 2 weeks of using, of teaching concepts in an authentic kind of way. So for vocabulary, you can see that before students were taught using authentically, about 189 of them were able to pass a quiz, a multiple choice quiz, and then after authentic learning, 182 of them passed the quiz. Again, so the quiz was 30 questions. It was multiple choice. So then for grammar, we taught present tense verbs, and then preterite tense after authentic learning. Hope you guys can see this. So then the pink category was for those who made 67 to 100 on the present tense quiz, and then those who scored 83 to 100 for the present tense quiz. And then for the preterite tense, so this again is before authentic learning, the number of students who passed altogether the quiz was about 75. So the preterite tense, you guys can see that for the 67, those who made a 67 to 100, it was 80% of them. And then those who made an 83 to 100, it was about 60. So again, overall, those students who passed the preterite tense quiz was 80. So this is after authentic learning. And those who passed the quiz for present tense before authentic learning was about 75. So then you can see, well, I'll hold on to that thought. So then my next little chart here for activity enjoyment. I gave them, again, these are the students who received the Likert survey after the authentic assessments. So then we asked the students, how many of you guys enjoyed vocabulary presented before we did authentic assessments? How many of you guys enjoyed grammar activities before authentic activities, that sort of thing? So pre-authentic activities, there were about 75% of the students who said they enjoyed what we had to do. And then after our authentic activities, about 87% of them said that they enjoyed the activity. So a discussion of the results. So you can see that in many ways, the results from the research confirmed the literature review, that many students did find new ways of working together. There was more of a sense of community I found during the 2-week period. It was actually surprising to see just how many students worked well together. The students were on task. They did seem to enjoy what we were doing. They seemed more motivated to complete the task because they were reflective of what they would do in the outside world with conversations and such. In one interview, a student stated that she was motivated to participate more because she was actually helping people. As far as the vocabulary was concerned, and I'll pull that back up here. As far as vocabulary was concerned, it was interesting to note that it didn't seem to matter the process in which vocabulary was presented. Students were either seemingly going to learn the material or they were not. So then what this showed me was that it tends to agree with what one of the researchers stated, and that memorization is great for test scores, but students don't learn the material that way. All too often, they just memorize words to pass a test, but they can't recall them at a later date. One student stated, though, that the activities made her more confident in what she was doing, validating Harditik and Rama, who discovered this in 2016. Given the goal that authentic learning is to be able to take what's learned and use it outside the classroom, designing an authentic assessment for grammar was not challenging. The students were told for the preterite tense, this is after the authentic learning, they were told on Monday what their quiz would look like on Friday. So I gave them a series, they were given 6 questions in Spanish, and I told them what answer I was looking for. They had to hit a particular conjugation in the preterite tense, but they had some flexibility in the sentence with how they wanted to structure it. They could be creative to some degree. So falling in line with the criteria given that I mentioned earlier for assessments, the oral quiz was realistic, it was performance-based, and mastery of the verb forms was expected. In view of that, the students had several days to practice using the preterite tense, and so then seeing that the majority of them, again, it was 80%, seeing that the majority of them passed the quiz was not surprising. In fact, it was less resemblant of a quiz. It didn't seem like a quiz at all, but it just seemed like it was, more of a conversation, which is, again, the goal of authentic learning. Research indicates that authentic learning leads to increased motivation, enjoyment, and satisfaction, which again I saw that was evident on students' faces as they engaged in the activities they were presented with. They enjoyed singing songs, they enjoyed playing charades, they enjoyed speaking to each of their classmates and moving from place to place, be able to interact with each of their classmates during the class period. They also loved being able to not work in their textbooks and use the languages, again, they would outside the classroom. One of the students was asked if the activities motivated her to participate more, and she said, definitely, because if you didn't participate, you didn't learn anything. She said it actually helped, so why not? The teacher that I worked with, I gave her an interview after the research project, and she said that she loved being able to use authentic assessments and activities in her classroom. She said that during interactive activities, you don't have to do much behavior monitoring. You're not constantly monitoring for students being on their phone. It takes away the boredom, which creates less discipline problems. The first research question looked for the effect of incorporating a variety of authentic strategies on student learning. Students were certainly more motivated and willing to participate. The assisting teacher again remarked that she saw a great effect. She said that students who did not normally master skills such as conjugating verbs were mastering these skills with ease. The second research question sought to find the effect of simulating real-world tasks on students' comprehension and application of Spanish. And after the research, even though the vocabulary scores were not as high, students surveyed remarked that they were better able to comprehend and apply the vocabulary even better than the grammar. The assisting teacher articulated that her students were able to put into context better what they were learning, she said, as opposed to information floating around in their brain. Because of this, it makes them more engaged. She also commented that she could have begun the week with a higher expectation for her students if she had known the students would do so well. Recommendations from this study, I was able to reflect in that many foreign language teachers are taught authentically, but we are not taught how to teach authentically. So we're able to experience the language and we're able to learn the language by participating in authentic activities, but we're not then taught how to break that down and teach other students authentically. What I also noticed during the course of this study was that 123 out of the 291 students are truant. And truancy here is defined by 5 or more days that are missed. So then my question is, do students miss so many days because they don't experience authentic learning? So then I would be interested to research that more, and then also have more than 2 weeks to complete the research project. In conclusion, many students fail to realize the significance and importance of learning a foreign language. All too often, adults can be heard saying they wish they would have paid attention in their foreign language class, especially in Spanish. With the world becoming more global and with more Spanish speakers moving to Middle Tennessee, being able to communicate in Spanish is an asset, and therefore there are many jobs who are willing to pay top dollar. The research findings agree with what the literature denotes about authentic learning, which again proclaims the value and benefits of it in the classroom. The students delighted in participating in what was asked of them. They were motivated to learn, and they did so experiencing challenges, but also encountering fun along the way. It'd be interesting to observe if the test scores further improved and if there was any change in attendance with additional time to implement the strategies. Many teacher programs don't focus again on authenticity as a part of the program, but it should be a vital component. Thank you.